Republicans want a nation where mothers can go to work, where college kids can go out on runs, where women can ride on the train without fear of losing their lives to illegal immigrant criminals being protected by the Democrats. They want open borders. They want to release illegal immigrant criminals into our communities. They want to turn America into a sanctuary country. That's why they defunded the Department of Homeland Security. Make no mistake, if Democrats continue to obstruct funding for the Department of Homeland Security, more blood will be on their hands. The next criminal who crosses our border illegally and kills an innocent American, Democrats' blood will be on your hands.
Nothing says the Republican Party quite like the racism-soaked lies that came out of John Barrasso's mouth right here. Thankfully, there are still some Democrats left with enough of a backbone to set the record straight.
I don't think anybody is confused about what's happening here. And that is that the American people understand that Trump's ICE operation is out of control. It is violating the constitutional due process of people throughout the country. It is violating the First Amendment rights of people throughout the country, including the right to peacefully protest.
One of those Dems is Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen, who has been solid on this issue since the start of Donald Trump's mass deportation terror campaign and was instrumental in exposing the cruelty of this ongoing operation.
From the very start, the Trump administration has lied to the American people about the targets of the ICE operation. And I heard it again on the floor of the Senate here today. They said they were going to go after the worst of the worst, people who are here illegally and posed a threat to public safety in our communities. That would have been acceptable, but that is not what they're doing in the overwhelming number of these cases. Republicans are beginning to recognize that this is completely unpopular with the American people. Yesterday, here are two headlines. One is in the Washington Post. White House tells House GOP to avoid mass deportation talk ahead of midterms. Here's another headline. Axios. White House tells House Republicans to stop talking about mass deportations. Well, they want Republicans to stop talking about mass deportations, but they're not actually doing anything to stop mass deportations.
The roles that the Republican rhetoric and propaganda played in selling the mass deportation scheme to the American people, they were huge, huge roles because they kept hammering it down people's throats, okay? And they wanted you to think that they were going to wipe out all these terrible illegal immigrants who were thugs and, criminals, rapists, just the scum of the earth, essentially. And if that were the case, okay, sure, nobody wants criminals on the street. Nobody wants people who are doing harm in that manner. But this was a major part. This was a cornerstone of Trump's campaign. And the scheme has increasingly lost popularity, though, since Trump got elected. You know why? Because the American people see that Trump and the Republicans were full of it. And they weren't actually going after these illegal immigrants who were causing so much harm and wreaking so much havoc on the communities. You know who's been doing that? ICE agents, DHS agents, the administration. I mean, I can go on and on about so many people who are here, who are American citizens, who are actually providing much more chaos in a horrific way. But again, people woke up because they saw it for what it was. It was propaganda not rooted in anything true. Because if you look at all the cases, where are all these evil illegal immigrants, for just tearing up our cities? You don't see it. But you see innocent people getting brutalized and killed.
Republicans passed what they call their big, beautiful bill, which was beautiful if you're a billionaire because you got big tax cuts. They cut Medicaid, they cut other health programs, cut food programs. But as part of that bill, they increased the ICE budget by over 7 times its annual amount. And they increased the Customs and Border Patrol budget by about double its annual amount. So that's why, as we speak, ICE agents are being paid. As we speak, Customs and Border Patrol agents are being paid. out of those accounts. You know who's not being paid? TSA. You know who's not being paid? FEMA. You know who's not being paid? Coast Guard. Do you know what the Democratic proposal would do that's offered by Senator Murray? Pay all those people so they can do the work that they need to do on behalf of the American people and get paid for the good work that they do.
I think this is such an effective point from Van Hollen because it demonstrates who the Republicans are about helping. And it's the billionaires, right, who are getting tax cuts, corporations getting tax cuts, as well as ICE and Customs Border Patrol seeing their budgets dramatically increase. While at the same time, we're seeing funding cuts to Medicaid, right, SNAP, FEMA, TSA agents, they're not getting paid, the Coast Guard. And these are all essential operations, programs that need the funding to help American people and keep them safe. And this is supposedly all done for the mass deportation scheme, right? Which is going to help people. But it's not. It's only terrorizing individuals, regardless of whether, they're a citizen or not, regardless of whether they committed a petty crime or not, right? They're not going after these hardcore drug leaders, rapists, you name it, right? They're not going after them. It's a very small number, compared to all the other things that they're doing. And this is all under the direction of paying for this mass deportation scheme, which again benefits nobody except the rich and the powerful. And they're able to abuse their power and get away with so much. So it shows you the Republicans don't care about you. We've known that.
They are pursuing a 30-plus-year-old individual whom they have mixed up with a high school intern who is interning for one of our state court judges. The state court judge is going to take the intern back to high school, so they walk out to the judge's car. If the ICE agents hadn't bothered to figure out who the judges were in the courthouse, when they got to the car, parked in a judges-only spot, they had the information necessary to deduce that this might be a judge. But rather than accept the judge's representations that he was returning an intern to the high school, I'll take out the full F-bomb because they used the actual full word. They told the judge, we're going to smash your effing windows and we're going to drag you out of your effing car if you don't turn over this intern to us. And then they grabbed the intern and they took him into another car for half an hour and figured out that the high school intern was not the 30-plus-year-old person they purported to be looking for. Why would regular law enforcement, why would those sheriffs in the courthouse want to cooperate with an agency whose law enforcement behavior is so wildly irresponsible and unprofessional?
Senator Whitehouse, he was dropping bars there, okay? Just another example of how ICE is way out of control. But when I think about whether DHS, wanted this mass deportation scheme to be as chaotic and lawless as possible, right, intentionally, I think partly yes, but another aspect that I think is at play here is that what you're seeing with this chaos and lawlessness is a symptom of the department's general incompetence. So I think it's a combination where, they do want things to be chaotic and lawless, and they're not going to follow the rules. But then also, you're going to have just people who do not know how to do their job, and they're not good at it. Okay, they are mediocre at best. That's what we're seeing here. So in one hand, yes, they want it to be as chaotic and lawless as possible to, drive so much fear, paranoia into the American public. But also, you got people in there who just don't know what they're doing. They just are not built for the job whatsoever. Both of those are big problems. Both of those are major problems. For Rebel HQ, I'm Chris Williamson. We'll see you next time.